Wait, $48,000 a year? You open your bank app and see it. A dividend payment has arrived. Not because you worked overtime, not because you picked up a side hustle, but simply because you own a tiny piece of a business. For the first time in your life, money showed up without you trading your time for it. That feeling? It's almost addictive. But here's the unsettling truth. Most people who chase this feeling never actually reach financial freedom. Not because dividend investing is fake, not because the stock market is rigged, but because there's a trap hiding inside the very thing that looks like your ticket to freedom. A trap so convincing that it makes you feel like you've found a shortcut, when you've actually just walked into a dead end. And today, we're going to expose exactly how that trap works, and how to build real freedom instead. No finance degree needed, no complicated jargon, just the psychology and mechanics behind why most people fail at dividends, and what actually works. To understand the trap, you first need to understand the dream. And that dream is simple. What if your money could work harder than you do? Think about it. Right now, you trade hours for dollars. Every paycheck is a transaction, your time, your energy, your life, exchanged for a number in your bank account. But dividends flip that equation. When you buy shares in a company, you become a partial owner. And when that company makes profits, it sometimes shares a portion of those profits with you. That shared profit is called a dividend. It's not a loan. It's not interest. It's a business saying, we made money this quarter, and because you believed in us enough to invest, we're sharing some of that with you. Now, some companies focus on growing as fast as possible. Companies like Nvidia or Amazon. They keep most of their profits to expand. That's growth investing. But other companies, older, stable businesses like McDonald's, Johnson & Johnson, or Coca-Cola, they make more cash than they realistically need. So instead of hoarding it, they start sending regular payments to their shareholders, sometimes every quarter, sometimes every month. And the dream is to eventually build a portfolio large enough that those payments cover your entire life. Your rent, your groceries, your bills, your freedom. Now let's meet Alex. Alex is 32. He works a stressful corporate job. Every Monday feels heavy. Every morning feels rushed. And deep down, Alex has one question burning inside him. How much money would I need for my investments to pay for my entire life? So one night, he sits down and calculates rent, food, utilities, transport, insurance. Everything added together comes to about $4,000 per month, or roughly $48,000 per year. Now here's where the math gets interesting. Most stable dividend investments pay around 4% per year. So Alex uses a simple formula. Annual expenses divided by dividend yield equals portfolio needed. $48,000 divided by 0.04. The answer, about $1.2 million. And for the first time in his life, financial freedom feels measurable, like it has a real address, like he could actually drive there. So Alex becomes disciplined. He cuts unnecessary spending. He starts investing consistently every month into a diversified portfolio. After months of sacrifice, he finally invests his first $15,000. Excited, he opens his brokerage account to check his dividend payments. And then, reality hits him like a wall. His entire quarterly dividend payment is only about $150. Not $150 a day, not $150 a week, $150 for the entire quarter. That's roughly $50 a month, less than his phone bill, and suddenly, that $1.2 million destination feels like it's on the other side of the galaxy. Now this is the moment where most people become dangerous, because slow progress doesn't just feel disappointing. It feels like betrayal. You did the math, you made the plan, you sacrificed, and the reward is $50 a month? That frustration doesn't just make people sad, it makes people search for shortcuts. So Alex stops buying stable companies and starts hunting for something more exciting, high dividend stocks. Online, he finds companies offering 12%, even 15% dividend yields. And the math suddenly looks incredible. Instead of needing $1.2 million, it now looks like he only needs about $400,000. This feels like a cheat code. The boring path takes forever. But this path, This path gets you there in half the time. But Alex just walked into the oldest trap in investing, the dividend yield trap. And here's why it's so convincing. Imagine there are 2 stores in your neighborhood. One store is healthy, clean, full of customers, making steady money every month. The other store is empty, struggling. The owner is barely paying rent. Now someone offers to sell you ownership in both businesses. Which one sounds safer? Obviously the healthy one. But here's the strange part. In the stock market, struggling companies sometimes look more attractive than healthy ones. Why? Because when a company's stock price crashes, the dividend percentage suddenly becomes very high. Think about it like this. If a company pays $4 in dividends per share and the stock costs $100, that's a 4% yield. Pretty normal. But if that same company runs into trouble and the stock price drops to $25, that same $4 dividend now looks like a 16% yield. On investing websites, it looks like free money, but the business underneath is already falling apart. That giant dividend isn't a gift, it's a distress signal. It's like a store hanging a banner that says 90% off everything. That banner isn't generosity, it's desperation. And this is exactly what happens to Alex. He buys shares in a struggling company, chasing that massive dividend yield. A few months later, the company runs into financial trouble. To survive, management cuts the dividend completely. The stock price crashes even harder. Alex loses both his income and a large part of his savings. And here's the psychological wound that most people never talk about. It's not just the money he lost. It's that the dream itself now feels like a lie. Alex's mistake teaches us something important. A safe dividend is not about the biggest payout. It's about the strongest business, because dividends only exist when companies are consistently making money. When a company earns profits, it has 2 choices. It can keep the money to grow the business. That's what young, fast-growing companies do. Or it can share some of those profits with investors. That's what stable, mature companies do. But good dividend companies don't pay out all their profits. They keep some money as a safety cushion, because businesses have bad years too. If a company earns $10 and pays you $4, that's usually manageable. Even if sales drop for a year, they can still afford to pay you. But if a company earns $10 and pays out $9.50, one bad year, one recession, one drop in sales, and suddenly the company may be forced to cut the dividend completely. This is why experienced investors care more about stability than flashy yields, because a smaller payment that survives for 20 years is far more powerful than a giant payment that disappears next year. Think of it this way. A 3% dividend from a fortress-like company that raises its payment every year for decades will eventually outpace a 12% dividend from a crumbling business that cuts it within 6 months. Slow and stable doesn't just win the race, it's the only strategy that actually finishes it. But even if you pick great companies, there's another invisible force quietly eating your income: taxes. And this is where dividend investing becomes surprisingly psychological, because the number you see on your screen is not always the amount you actually keep. Different countries tax dividend income differently. In Australia, for example, many companies pay something called fully franked dividends, which basically means the company has already paid tax before sending you the money. For some Australians, especially retirees or lower income earners, this can significantly reduce what you owe. Meanwhile, in the United States, some dividends receive special lower tax rates, while others are taxed more heavily depending on the type of investment. The important lesson is simple. 2 people can earn the exact same dividend income, but end up keeping very different amounts of money, which is why smart investors don't just focus on how much they make, they also focus on how much they keep. Because freedom isn't measured by what arrives in your account, it's measured by what stays in your hands. Now, as your portfolio grows over time, your strategy slowly shifts, and it moves through 3 phases. Phase 1, build. This is the early stage, the snowball stage. Many investors use something called DRIP, short for Dividend Reinvestment Plan. Instead of taking the dividend money out as cash, your brokerage automatically uses it to buy more shares. More shares create more dividends, which buy more shares, which create even more dividends. Your portfolio begins compounding on itself, like a snowball rolling down a hill, small at first, barely noticeable, but give it enough time and it becomes something unstoppable. Phase 2. Protect. As the portfolio grows larger, smart investors start spreading their money across different companies, different industries, and even different countries. Not because they want excitement, but because true financial freedom is fragile if all your money depends on one company surviving forever. If that one company fails, your entire income disappears overnight. Diversification isn't about playing safe. It's about making sure your freedom can survive a storm. Phase 3. Freedom. This is where you slowly stop reinvesting everything and start using the dividends to support your actual life. Groceries, bills, rent, travel, time. And this is the part most people misunderstand. Living off dividends is not about becoming rich. It's about buying back control over your life. Because money is replaceable, time is not. Every dollar you invest into strong businesses is slowly purchasing future freedom. Freedom from panic. Freedom from survival mode. Freedom from selling your entire life just to pay monthly bills. And the beautiful part? You don't need to reach $1 million overnight. You can approach it step by step. First, maybe your investments cover your phone bill, then your groceries, then your rent, then eventually, your entire life. One expense at a time, one share at a time, one decision at a time. Ultimately, dividend investing changes the way you see the world. You stop acting like a customer trapped inside the economy and slowly become an owner benefiting from it. And maybe that's the real goal after all. Not luxury, not status, not showing strangers how successful you are, but building a life where your time finally belongs to you. The most valuable investment you can ever make isn't in a stock or a property. It's in understanding your own mind,